Alright guys, today we're going to do an optical art weaving, and in order to do this you're going to need two colors of paper. If you don't have construction paper at home, you can just use white paper and color one of them so that you end up with two different colors. Once you have your two papers, you're going to set one aside. We're going to start just with one color to start with, so I'm going to put these two aside and I'll have these two colors. Now the first color you're going to fold in half like a book. Okay. And then you're going to need some materials today. You're going to need a pencil, an eraser, a pair of scissors, and you might want a ruler to help you draw straight lines on your first paper. Okay, so gather up all your materials and then we'll get started. Alright, so on this paper that you just folded, you're going to put the open edge at the top and leave the folded edge at the bottom. Then if you have a ruler, you're going to hold it towards the top and you're going to draw a horizontal line. This line is going to help you know where to stop when you're cutting. After this, you're going to make your lines that go vertical. Now, since we're doing optical art, you can either make these lines straight or wavy, but I'm going to show you how it looks if you do them straight. Try to keep these lines about the same width. If they're not exactly the same width, that's okay. You just don't want like really thick lines or really thin lines. You want them to be mostly the same. Okay, once you have these lines drawn, you're ready for the next step. For the next step, you need scissors. You're going to cut, keeping your paper folded, until you get to the straight line. Notice how because I'm stopping before I get to that line, it's still attached and it doesn't cut all the way and separate my strips. I want it to be one solid piece with the cuts in it when I'm done. Okay, so you can see I finished cutting. When I open it up, I have one solid piece cut with strips in it, and I'm going to lay it so the pencil goes towards the back so I can't see my pencil lines. Okay, now I'm ready to start my second step. If you have a page like this where you colored it to make it a new color, you're going to want to make sure you're drawing on the back because we don't want our pencil lines to show when we're weaving. Now, if you remember these, I went ahead and made straight. I told you you can make them straight or curvy on the green paper, but on the second piece of paper, you're going to want to make these lines wavy. So you can just draw simple wavy lines. Like so. If you do big waves like this, it's easier to cut. If you have really tight waves, those are harder to cut. So you're going to want to kind of keep your wavy lines wide and loose instead of tight and close together so you don't have such a hard time. Okay, we're only going to cut one strip at a time to make sure we don't lose the order because we have to weave in order for this to work. Alright, so I'm going to cut this first strip here. And since I drew on my back, I don't have to worry if I miss my pencil lines slightly because no one will see them. Okay, this first one has the straight edge that has to go towards the bottom. Okay, and the pattern for weaving is over, under, over, under. Now you'll notice that I cut these so that they're the same width as my paper, so you can see that I cut the short direction, not the long direction. That's important. Okay, start your weaving over, under, over, under, over, under, all the way to the end. It's important that you don't accidentally skip some, that you do each one for our optical art. Once you have it in there, you can scoot it all the way down to the bottom, like so. Then you're ready for your next strip. Now you're going to want to make sure that you line this up correctly and you don't accidentally flip it. See how that doesn't match up with my previous paper? I know that's the wrong direction. It needs to be able to match up correctly. Okay, now I'm going to change the order that I weave in. So this time I went over, so this time I have to start under. This should create kind of like a checkerboard effect, except with wavy lines. You scoot it all the way down, and you can see I have matched it up correctly because the wave pattern matches with the previous paper. Now to keep these from sliding, I can use a glue stick or a glue bottle. Glue stick's easier. If you have a glue bottle, just use a little dot so it doesn't go everywhere. Use your glue stick and put it underneath the edge of the strips. So you're just going to keep putting just a little bit of glue on the ends of the strips where they touch. So if my strip's on top, like so, if my strip's underneath, like so. And that way they won't slide around or fall out while I'm weaving. Okay? Then just continue. Remember that when you cut, once you're done, you want to make sure you line it up before you weave it through so that it matches up and isn't backwards. Okay? And you have to switch your pattern. So this one's over, this one was under, so this one has to go over. Uh-oh, I made a mistake somewhere because those match. If I look, there I find where I've made my mistake. That way, I can go back and find it and fix it before I've glued my strips down. Make sure you check before you glue so it's easier to fix your mistake. Okay, now I check again. This paper slid through, but other than that, I did it correctly. Push it down, line it up, and I'm ready to glue again. Alright, I'm going to keep going, and when I'm done, I'm going to show you the second step that's optional to make your optical art look even cooler. Okay, as you get towards the top, you're going to notice that your piece might not fit all the way, so you may have to trim some off so that it's the right height to where your cutting ends. Okay, so I can take my pencil and make a little mark, and I'm going to just trim that piece off. To make sure it will fit. You can look for any other spots like that towards the top that might need to go. This is why I have an eraser. Go ahead and trim that off. Try to do the weaving. If you find that you need to cut more off, you can always cut more off. Since I noticed that this side is thinner and this side is fatter, I'm actually going to come from the other direction to make it easier to weave. I may even have to fold my paper a little bit to get it through on some of those thinner waves, like so, and then I can just flatten it out. If you have to, if it's a really tight fit, you can take your scissors and just trim a little bit to make sure you can get through. All right, glue your last piece down. This extra is just trash. You have your weaving finished. Okay, Now there's a second step you can do if you want to add a little bit more detail and optical illusion to your art. All right, for this step, a simple printer paper works best because it's very thin, because what we're going to be doing is a rubbing. So we're going to copy our design here. Try to make your printer paper fit on your construction paper as best as possible. And what you're going to notice is that you're picking up that pattern. So see how you can see just be careful not to get it on your weaving when you're rubbing your pencil. Alright, so my rubbing done. Now to make things easiest, I'm going to want some circular shapes to trace. So if you have things like lids or tape rolls or anything round like that that you can trace, that's going to be easier. You don't want them too small, so that would probably be too small. You're going to want something more like a sour cream lid. Alright, so I just have some simple circular objects here that I got around the house, and I can trace these depending on if I want them big or small. This one's a little bit bigger than what I like, so I'm going to use more of these small ones. Alright, go ahead and actually probably trace them on the back so you can see them. Right, and then I can start cutting them out. And then you're going to want to try to match them up where they came from. Alright, so I have my extra pieces on. If I want to make these stand out even more, I can get a marker, and I can actually trace where these lines are. Like so, and then I can color in a checkerboard pattern. Alright, so those are some options for you on your optical art paper weaving. You can do these extra steps, or you can just leave it with the weaving finished, depending on what you think looks good and what kind of project you want to have finished, how much time you have, what kind of supplies you have. Might change a little bit what this project looks like for you. Alright, I look forward to seeing what you do, and can't wait to have it uploaded to Google Classroom. Remember, when your project's done and dry, you can also share a picture of you holding your artwork. If you'd like to share that with you, I'd love to see your smiling faces.